Hello, this is David Allen and you are watching Sporting Icons.
Right, so it's now confirmed that Dominic Breazeale has an opponent for December the 22nd in Brooklyn, New York, which is of course on the Charlo Twins undercard. And he'll be taking on Carlos Negron. He's a Puerto Rican, 30 years old, 6'6", heavyweight of course. And he has a record of 20 wins and 1 defeat. Bearing in mind, Dominic Breazeale has a record of 19 wins and 1 defeat. So Negron has actually had 1 fight more. Now, the only person that kind of stands out for me on Negron's record is Derek Rossi, which happened to be his very last fight in June this year, where he knocked out Derek Rossi. Derek Rossi is a guy who went the distance with Bermane Stiverne before Bermane Stiverne took on Deontay Wilder in their rematch. But there's nothing really there that stands out for me as far as opponents go. I said he's from Puerto Rico, so maybe that's where he's been fighting for the most part. But out of his 20 wins, he has stopped 16 of his opponents, so he's got some power behind him. So it's certainly a risk for Dominic Breazeale. Now, every time Dominic Breazeale fights, he's going to have to be defending his WBC mandatory position. So that means that if Negron was to beat him, he would become the WBC mandatory. Now, I'm not too sure on the rules of the mandatory. I know the rules for the champion. The champion has to fight top 15. Okay, and yeah, okay, so the WBC champion is Wilder. Usually he fights from number 15 to number 9 or something like that, right? Usually. But with the mandatory, I'm not too sure, because Negron, as far as I'm aware, and I do keep up to date with the ranking system, he's not ranked top 15. So I'm guessing that is different rules, which is a bit strange for me, that Negron, if he was to beat Dominic Breazeale, he would then become the mandatory to fight the winner of Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. So he would have come out from nowhere. I mean, how many people have actually heard of this guy? I've never heard of this guy prior to the announcement of Dominic Breazeale. Now, it's a bit of a risky fight just based on his record. As I said, 20 wins, 16 by stoppage. His 1 defeat, he did get knocked out himself. And that was a guy called Epifanio Mendoza. And he got knocked out in 3 rounds. So, I don't know. I mean, again, he's been knocked out by a guy who had 12 losses on his record, which is a little bit worrying. So, he's certainly there for the taking, you would presume, at least. But Dominic Breazeale, again, his defense not the best in the world, and most of his fights he pretty much goes to war, right? And he does get tagged, so it's an interesting one, that's for sure. But again, he turned down the opportunity to fight on the very same day, but in the UK as a headliner against Dillian Whyte, which is a fight that most people would want to see. It's the WBC mandatory, Dominic Breazeale versus the WBC silver champion and number 1 ranked by WBC, Dillian Whyte. That would have been the fight to have happened. But why it didn't happen, couldn't even tell you. I'm presuming that maybe, again, I am just presuming that Eddie Hearn didn't put too much effort into that fight because he wants double pay, if you like, for Dillian Whyte versus Derek Chisora. That's the only thing I could really come up with. And maybe that is the most lucrative fight for Dillian Whyte, would be Chisora. I don't know. As we know with Luis Ortiz, he's going to be fighting Travis Kaufman on the Wilder undercard. And Chris Arreola is also going to be on that undercard as well. So that's 2 guys that would have been ideal for Dillian Whyte. But so it does look like that he's now going to have to fight Derek Chisora, really, I suppose. But either way, Dominic Breazeale, he's going to be taking on Carlos Negron. And as I said, this will be on December 22nd, which will be the same day as Dillian Whyte's fighting. But he's going to be fighting in New York. So, yeah, just get that news out there for you all. You drop your thoughts below about it, click that thumbs up, and of course subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.